Welcome to Carol and Gary's See America Tour. On Tuesday, July 31st, Carol, Jasper, and I drove 4 hours from Wichita to Oakley in the northwest corner of Kansas. Western Kansas is relatively flat, covered primarily with grasslands and cattle, or crops. But sometimes you stumble across geological anomalies such as this. According to scientists, the United States was split in half 80 million years ago by the Western Interior Seaway. It extended from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. These 70-foot tall chalk formations are the eroded remains of sedimentary deposits left when the Western Interior Seaway dried up. It is known as Monument Rocks and is located approximately 25 miles south of Oakley. It was the first landmark chosen by the U.S. Department of the Interior as a National Natural Landmark. On Thursday, August 2nd, after visiting the local tourism office, Carol, Jasper, and I drove 35 miles south to Battle Canyon. This is the location of the last Indian battle in Kansas. As you may remember from our Tulsa, Oklahoma video, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced American Indians to move to reservations in Oklahoma. The Northern Cheyenne Indians had been put on a reservation with Southern Cheyenne Indians, and apparently they didn't get along. And there was little food and no buffalo. Plus malaria ravaged the Northern Indian tribe. On September 9, 1878, Chief Dull Knife and Chief Little Wolf, under the cover of darkness, led 92 warriors, 120 women, and 141 children on a 1,500-mile trek back toward their homeland near Yellowstone. As they came through Kansas, the U.S. Army was dispatched with Lieutenant Colonel William Lewis in charge to capture and return the Indians to the reservation. After a skirmish with soldiers a few days earlier, the Indians arrived at an area known as Battle Canyon in western Kansas on September 25, 1878, ready to make their last stand. This area was a remote canyon with a natural cave at the end where the women, children, and elders would be safe. During the 3-hour battle that ensued, one Indian warrior was killed and several wounded. Colonel Lewis was wounded. He later died of his wounds. The Indians then escaped under the cover of darkness, eluded the U.S. Army troops, and continued their passage north. On the way back to Oakley from Battle Canyon, we stopped at the reconstructed ruins of a 7-room pueblo believed to have been built by Pueblo Indians in the 1640s. These ruins were first excavated in 1898 after the landowner found numerous artifacts and burned corn. The excavation revealed stone and bone tools, pottery, and the original stone foundation of this pueblo. In 1970, the foundation was rebuilt to appear as it had in 1898. On Friday, August 3rd, Carol and I visited the Vic Fossil and History Museum in downtown Oakley. Until Wednesday's trip to Monument Rocks, most of you probably didn't associate water with the central United States. But by 1964, this vast ocean was long gone. 1964 was when Oakley residents Ernest and Vi Vic started collecting fossils 2 days a week near Monument Rocks. By 1971, they had collected thousands of shark teeth and complete fossils. Vi Vic incorporated many of these fossil findings into a very unique collection of artwork. Friends would often stop to see Vi's artwork, but soon the collection had outgrown the Vic house. The city of Oakley agreed to build a fossil and history museum that now contains the Vic collection and numerous other collections. This is a 15-foot prehistoric fish found near Oakley by renowned paleontologist George Sternberg. In addition to the fossils, a recreated sod house was displayed inside the museum. We also saw an old pioneer wagon, a mounted buffalo head, and a 1956 fire truck. We learned about one of the rock formations at Monument Rocks, nicknamed Old Chief Smoky, which collapsed in April 1986 after high winds. On Saturday, August 4th, Carol, Jasper, and I drove east of Oakley 30 miles and then south 12 miles to Castle Rock. Like Monument Rock's 31 miles to the west, Castle Rock is believed to have been formed by chalky sediment at the bottom of the western interior seaway 80 million years ago. Here is a view of Castle Rock from an elevated point nearby. Castle Rock was a landmark on the Overland Trail during the 19th century. Currently, the tallest column is approximately 70 feet. In 2001, following a thunderstorm, the short column on the right side of this picture fell. It was the tallest column in the group. Here is a close-up view of Castle Rock. Castle Rock was impressive to see, but a short distance away is an area known as Castle Rock Badlands. Here are some pictures of those badlands. These are swallows flying around their nest above. Jasper started getting hot, so he laid down in a mud puddle caused by a tire rut from a vehicle filled up with water during yesterday's rainstorm. On Sunday, August 5th, Carol and I drove to the Prairie Museum of Art and History, 20 miles west of Oakley. The museum has a large outdoor exhibit that reflects the lives of pioneers that settled in western Kansas in the 1870s. Unique to the Great Plains, the sod house arose out of necessity when westward expansion met with the treeless prairie. From the late 1800s to the early 20th century, sod homes, schools, and churches dotted the landscape from Canada to Texas. The sod was watered to make it easier to cut. Then, using a sod cutter such as this, sod was cut 1 inch thick by 4 inches wide by 2 feet long. The damp brick weighed as much as 50 pounds each. The next thing we saw was a 1930s farmstead home. The 1930s in western Kansas was known as the Dirty 30s because of the sandstorms that destroyed crops and made life miserable. This was the dining room inside of the 1930s home. Notice that there is no television. People put puzzles together and read books. This piece of furniture is known as a bureau. My mom kept all of her important paperwork in the top drawer of one of these bureaus similar to this. Things like the puzzle you saw on the table would have been stored underneath. This is the kitchen where the stove and refrigerator would have been. In the living room, a radio was often your link to the rest of the world. Some homes had a Victrola for playing records. Outside of the 1930s home was a windmill that would have pumped water for the home from deep underground. Next we saw a one-room schoolhouse. The last thing we saw outside was the largest barn in Kansas. Built in 1936, this barn is 114 feet long, 66 feet wide, and 48 feet tall. It was moved in one piece to the museum in 1992. Then Carol and I went inside where we saw a large collection of toys, coins, and dishes, but today's video is already getting too long, so I will end it here. I will post this video tomorrow, and then we will be headed for Topeka on Tuesday. If you like this video but have not yet subscribed, please do so to be notified of future videos, and feel free to share with your friends. Thanks for watching!